6:15 here on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We have seen tragically lots of incidents of terror, both on the home front and internationally recently. So it is great that we have with us Chris Copeland. He is director of the Institute for Homeland Security and Cybercrime at Tarleton State University, Fort Worth, Texas. Chris, welcome to KABC. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great. How are you?
Doing fine, thanks. And gosh, it's just it is so tragic that this story does not go away. As I say, you know, it used to be that we thought, well, 9/11, that's it for the United States, and we'll help the folks on the international front. But after San Bernardino and Orlando, Florida, and others, it has definitely hit the home front. I wanted to start out by asking you about a point that I've heard Charles Krauthammer on Fox News make a few times, and that is this. Young recruits around the world, people who might be tempted to go with ISIS, they don't like losers. They want to be with a winner. So Krauthammer's advice is you go after the leaders and you kill them and you root them out of the cities that they control, and the interest among young males will dry up because they won't feel like there's a winning team to join. Do you think there's much to Krauthammer's point in terms of a strategy for the West?
I don't know that has been validated in any way. The reason that we typically go after leaders is, you know, we know that someone's going to take their place.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's been a standard for a very long time. That you kill a leader, someone will eventually have to take their place, but you've disrupted the organization between now and then. When someone is leaderless, they're spending their time and resources either trying to fill the gap or trying to get back to where they were, rather than actually implementing some of their plans. So that's really one of the reasons that we go after leaders. The secondary format for that is that once you've killed a leader, you've demoralized troops below that person. So not only in addition are they having to go out and find somebody else to lead them or fill that vacuum, but they've been demoralized a little bit if they've killed the leader. And that's one of the reasons that we do this as well. So I don't know that it's been in any way shown that killing or incapacitating leaders, either foreign or domestically, would have an effect of.
What about the second part of Krauthammer's point, namely, go to the cities where they're in control, Fallujah and so on, which there have been successes recently, and just root them out? Because to the extent they actually control physical space on the planet, as opposed to just being sort of a concept in cyberspace, that makes them less attractive. Because again, young recruits maybe are impressionable when they realize, oh my gosh, these ISIS folks, they control X square miles in Syria and these cities in Iraq and so on. Do you think that is an important strategic step in order to tamp down the recruitment?
So I think, well, I'm honestly not sure, because I don't know that it's been tested or it's been shown. The biggest concern about taking back space is that you're denying these people, one, physical means, two, any sort of revenue from the people that they're taxing or the people that they're in control of. Three, if you force them to leave a city, you force them to leave all of their resources behind, or you force them to take only what they can with them. So they lose the ability to form up strongholds, they lose the ability to form up defensive positions, that kind of thing.
Hey, go ahead, Rob.
Chris, I'm just curious, when our president, the first point, I guess, is when he refused to identify the enemy here at home, and secondly, when he says that they're on the wane and they're in retreat and so forth. How does that help, if at all, the homeland security effort?
So anybody who is local, and this is a propaganda thing, anybody who is in the United States domestically who is either considering joining ISIL or the Islamic State, or anybody who is in the process of becoming radicalized, it does help demoralize them.
Really?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
If you're only getting, you have to consider how most of Americans get their news. They get their news in 30-second sound bites. So if that 30-second soundbite includes the director of the FBI or the President of the United States or the Joint Chiefs of Staff coming out and saying, we're doing a great job killing ISIL, then that's 30 seconds of propaganda they didn't have beforehand.
So the see something, say something folks Don't you think the argument can be made that the see something, say something is, geez, I don't want to do that now because I hear the enemy's on their way out, and who am I to do that?
Absolutely not. I've actually been very, very lucky. I got to go with the FBI for a period of about 16 weeks, and see something, say something works daily. You would be amazed at how many FBI branches utilize see something, say something to their advantage just from everyday people filing police reports, calling police, calling tip lines. That's how they get tipped off.
It's too bad, not to make too much light of this, but it's too bad the agents working for the FBI in Orlando didn't do the see something, say something thing with the terrorists there.
Well, yeah, unfortunately, it requires the public to be as vigilant as the agents themselves. It's just like the police. The police can't respond unless you call 911. There's no way for them to see everything from their patrol car. There's no way for the FBI and other agencies to see everything. So that's something that the public has to maintain, is that if you see something that looks out of place, if you see something that could be something and you don't know, best to just let them know. It's best to call it in and find out what happened.
We're talking with Chris Copeland, director of the Institute for Homeland Security and Cybercrime. What do you think the answer is in terms of trying to cut down on, the lone wolf recruitment business, just, getting the message out by ISIS in cyberspace, and you never know who's going to pick it up and try to engage in an attack? I mean, if it's not taking back their territory and if it's not killing their leaders, what would the main step you would recommend be to minimize the chance that people around the world who have access to the internet are going to be lulled or going to be drawn into this circle and take action?
So I don't know that there's going to be any one particular thing, that there's no silver bullet to stopping radicalization of young people who are already impressionable. I remember being in my early teens and believing everything I was told until I became a critical thinker. And there's just no way to avoid that. They have to have some sort of structure in their lives, and they have to rely upon that structure. There's no way really to avoid that at all. But what we can do is what we're doing now, and that is, we're watching for radicalization on social media, Facebook and Twitter, YouTube. We're watching the messages that are sent out. Agencies and police departments as well, they're doing a really decent job of monitoring what they can for signs of radicalization, especially for domestic terrorism. In regards to something like Orlando, when you have this lone wolf who has a problem, who has a mental instability on top of radicalization, being mentally ill is not a crime in the United States. And unfortunately, a lot of people who have mental illnesses go undiagnosed. Unfortunately, there's not a way to stop that either. There's no one silver bullet. It's going to be a mixture of methods, and it's going to be a mixture of tactics.
The tolerance of the American public for strong action against terrorism, searches and waterboarding, wiretapping, over-the-top security at airports, it seems to be a function of the level of terrorist activity. And in recent months, that level is going up. Do you think that we're going to see increasing pressure for more muscular action against terrorism on the home front?
Yeah, that's an excellent question that I really don't know the answer to, because it would be, we're trying to predict how the public is going to react to something that may or may not happen. There's going to be another terrorist event. There's going to be another lone wolf or a radicalized person out there. The question is, when, where, and to what extent do they operate, or do they strike? And judging the reaction upon that is going to heavily depend on how much damage is done. So that's an excellent question. It'd be lovely if we could try to predict that level of public sentiment, but I don't know that we can.
Last question for you, Chris Copeland. If we continue to see more of the homeland activity in the next few months, like San Bernardino, Orlando, do you think terrorism has the potential for just hijacking the presidential race? And I guess some people would say that would be to the benefit of Donald Trump.
So I think both candidates are going to have to deal with domestic terrorism no matter what. It's here. It's been here for a while. Even before ISIS existed, or ISIL existed, there were people who were acting on behalf of Al Qaeda here. So insert a name of an organization, it's going to be here. That's not going to go away. Every presidential race from here on out is going to have to deal with domestic terrorism.
All right, Chris Copeland, Director of the Institute for Homeland Security and Cybercrime. Thank you so much for sharing part of your holiday with us. You have a great 4th.
Hey, thank you. You too.
Thanks a lot.